Emily dear, we've been talking about your clinic. Her father's voice is too smooth, too prepared. The words hang in the air like a draft that sneaks in through an old window. I glance at the table before me. Crystal glasses, polished silver, roast beef steaming at the center. And already I know this isn't an ordinary Sunday dinner. Something beneath the smiles and the careful arrangement of dishes feels staged, like a performance rehearsed too many times. My mother's laugh rings out slightly higher than usual as she pushes a bowl of mashed potatoes toward me. You work so hard, darling. Always those long hours. Her hand brushes mine, warm but pressing just a little too firmly, as though guiding me not only to the food but into the script they've written for me. Beside her, Rachel sits tall, shoulders squared with the excitement of someone about to reveal a grand surprise. Her eyes catch mine, shimmering with that familiar glint I used to see when she'd set a prank in motion during childhood. She offers a smile that is too wide and too confident. I set my napkin on my lap and inhale deeply, catching the scent of Parker House rolls. My childhood comfort, but the sweetness turns sour in my stomach. I spot it then. A folder tucked under my father's plate, a neat manila corner sticking out from beneath his napkin. My chest tightens. We talked in circles for a few minutes. My mother complimented my blouse. My father comments on the car I drove up in, reminding me once again that he preferred something reliable, not flashy. Rachel teases about the size of my waiting room and how it feels tiny compared to all the patients I brag about. Each remark feels less like conversation and more like bricks being laid into a wall. Finally, my father sets down his fork with a deliberate clink, a sound sharper than the edge of the carving knife. His gaze fixes on me with the steady calculation I know from years of living under his rules. He clears his throat. Sierra, he corrects himself quickly. Emily, we've been thinking about the future of your clinic. Rachel straightens, her face lighting up like stage lights. She clasps her hands together dramatically. I've been working on something really exciting, she says, voice bubbling as though she can hardly contain it. The unease in my chest hardens. My fork hovers midair, unmoving. I try to swallow, but the food feels like sawdust against my tongue. My father reaches for the folder, sliding it toward me across the polished wood. His hand was steady, his smile firm. Your sister has drawn up a plan, he announces, that it will secure the family's future. Rachel pushes her chair closer, leaning in as though we're partners already. It's all right here, she chirps. I'll take over as your practice manager. You can focus on patients while I handle the boring office stuff. And, this is the best part, I only ask for 25% of the profits. Her words ring like a gavel striking. I hear the echo of every sacrifice I ever made. Double shifts in the cafeteria, studying under flickering lights, eating ramen to cover tuition. Twisted now into this moment where my family sits across from me, smiling as they plan to carve pieces out of my life's work. My mother claps her hands together lightly, pearls catching the chandelier's glow. It's a wonderful idea, don't you think? A family business, carried forward with love. But all I feel is the tightening in my chest, the walls of the room pressing in. The air smells of roast beef and warm rolls, but all I can taste is betrayal. Rachel's grin widens as she taps the folder with a manicured finger. I can start tomorrow. I already have ideas for redecorating the office. Imagine a brighter lobby, new furniture, maybe even a cappuccino machine. Patients will love it. I don't respond. My hand curls into a fist beneath the table, hidden by the white linen. My pulse pounds in my ears, each beat louder than the chatter around me. This is not dinner. It's an ambush. Emily grips her water glass to steady herself. This isn't dinner, she thinks. It's a takeover. Book smarts don't build practices, Emily. Her father's words from graduation echo, louder than the clink of silverware. The memory strikes with such clarity that for a moment I forget where I am. The polished dining table glistens under the chandelier, the china carefully laid, but I see instead a stage in a high school auditorium, the empty row of seats where my parents should have been. I felt the same hollowness then as now, sitting across from Rachel's smirk. Her smile is the same one she wore when we were children, the one that always meant she had the upper hand. Tonight, it tells me she already believes the folder by Dad's plate has sealed my fate. My mind drifts further back, unwilling but unstoppable. I am 12 years old again, seated at the kitchen table in my worn pajamas. A single card rests beside my cereal bowl, its hallmark gloss still smelling faintly of ink. I tore it open with hope, only to find a brief line, "Love, Mom and Dad." No gift, no celebration. I had told myself I didn't need more, that I was practical, that maybe they were saving for something big. 2 weeks later, Rachel burst out the front door, wheeling a new bicycle, teal paint gleaming in the sun and streamers flying from the handlebars. Our parents clapped with delight, Mom waving a handkerchief as if sending royalty off on parade. Dad tossed me the camera. "Get a good shot, Emily. This is a milestone." I remember the sting of tears as I framed the photo of Rachel's grin, my own longing swallowed whole. The pattern deepened with age. High school graduation was supposed to be mine. I worked through sleepless nights to finish at the top of my class, valedictorian, scholarship in hand. I stood on stage, trembling but proud, ready to see my family in the crowd. Instead, the seats remained vacant, a void where their pride should have been. 7 minutes after my speech ended, they slipped into the back row, smiling as though nothing had been missed. My mother whispered about terrible traffic, her perfume filling my lungs, before reminding me that Rachel's recital was that night and we couldn't be late. My diploma sat heavily in my hands, but to them it was just paper. Even in college, the cycle continued. My dean's list certificates arrived at home, unopened, stacked on the counter like forgotten mail. Meanwhile, Rachel's every achievement was displayed proudly, photos from sorority formals pinned to the fridge, postcards from trips I helped finance, taped by the phone. I was the shadow, the helper, the one who asked for nothing and gave everything. I shift in my chair now, the roast beef cooling on my plate, the scent mingling with bitterness rising in my throat. I see Rachel in the clinic one summer, leaning back in the receptionist's chair, scrolling through her phone while patients filled the waiting room. When I confronted her, she waved me off with that same smirk. "They're just old people, Emily. They have nowhere important to be." I spent weeks apologizing and repairing trust, one phone call at a time. My staff and I stayed late into the night, eating cold pizza under buzzing fluorescent lights, while Rachel posted photos from rooftop parties. And then there were the nights in my apartment, if you could call it that. One room with peeling paint, the kind of space where every sound echoed. I slept on a sagging mattress hauled in from a neighbor's curb, textbooks stacked as a nightstand. Dinner was often instant noodles eaten straight from the pot, steam fogging the single window. On my worst nights, I stretched out on the treatment tables at the clinic, wrapping myself in patient blankets because I couldn't afford both rent and malpractice insurance. My body ached, but at least the clinic was mine. Through it all, I sent money home. When Rachel's tuition bill loomed, I picked up extra shifts in the hospital cafeteria, scraping trays and wiping down tables until my hands cracked. I told myself family comes first, that one day they would see me, not just the sacrifices, but the strength behind them. Now I sit at this polished table, silver gleaming, wine poured, everything perfectly staged. Rachel leans back, sipping delicately, radiating satisfaction. The folder lies like a verdict between us. My mother smiles softly, pearls catching the light. "You've always been so responsible, Emily. It's time you let someone else take care of things for a change. The irony is suffocating. For years, I was their safety net. I covered medical bills when Dad's shoulder failed, when Mom's feet ached, and when Rachel needed emergency massages before beach vacations. I gave until there was almost nothing left of me. Now, with my clinic finally alive, they call this a family project, as though the sweat and debt and nights alone were nothing but rehearsal for Rachel's grand entrance. I look at her across the table. That smirk is the same as the day she wore my cap at graduation while Dad snapped photos, the same as the bicycle shining in the sun, the same as every moment I was told to step aside. My chest tightens, but I square my shoulders. They raised me to be invisible. But not anymore. Emily studies her sister across the dinner table. They raised me to be invisible, but not anymore. Richard leans forward, his voice dropping to a command. Family stands together, especially in business. The words scrape against my nerves like sandpaper. I watch the way his hands clasped in front of him, as if sealing a deal, as if my life's work could be negotiated over mashed potatoes and fine china. His eyes bore into mine with that same old authority, the same look that once grounded me for missing curfew, that reminded me of who held the power in this house. Under the table, my hand slides toward my briefcase. The leather is smooth beneath my palm, and the clasp is still locked. I had brought it only because I came straight from the clinic, but now it feels like an anchor, proof that I don't walk into battles unarmed anymore. Rachel leans closer to Dad, her perfume sweet and cloying, like cotton candy hiding something sour. "Emily, you should be relieved. I'll take the boring parts off your plate. Think of all the extra time you'll have with patients." She beams, her voice dripping with confidence. "And of course, I'll redecorate the waiting room. Bright colors, a cappuccino machine, maybe a TV in the lobby. Patients love that kind of thing." "Mom!" nods eagerly, her pearl necklace shifting as she clasps her hands. "Rachel has a gift with people. Remember how she charmed Dr. Wilson at your clinic opening? He barely noticed you were there." The sting of that memory burns. I remember standing at the ribbon cutting, my stomach twisting, as Dr. Wilson turned all his attention toward Rachel's chatter, while I, the one who had signed the lease and financed every piece of equipment, stood like a prop in the background. I swallow hard, forcing my voice steady. "I already have a clinic manager." Rachel waves her hand as though swatting away an insect. "But she doesn't have my skills. I know how to connect, how to make people feel welcome. You'll thank me once profits soar." The muscles in my jaw tighten. I could stay silent and let them keep speaking as if my silence meant consent, but silence has been my prison for too long. I straighten my back and set my fork down with deliberate care. "May I see what you've prepared?" Dad's mouth curves into a small, satisfied smile. He slides a manila folder across the polished table, the paper whispering against linen as though it already knows the verdict. "It's been drawn up by my attorney. It just needs your signature." Perfect timing. I can start tomorrow. I let the weight of their words settle before I moved. Slowly, deliberately, I reach down and unclip my briefcase. The snap echoes like a gunshot in the tense silence. 3 pairs of eyes follow my hands as I draw out my own portfolio, the leather thick, the pages inside neatly arranged. I place it on the table with precision, aligning the edges to the tablecloth. My father frowns, his confidence flickering. "What's this?" "Evidence," I say simply. My voice is calm, but inside, my pulse races. I flip open the folder, revealing patient complaint forms, each one organized and highlighted. These are from last summer, when Rachel helped at the clinic. 15 scheduling errors resulted in double-booked treatment rooms, 23 unauthorized discounts, most of them to your sorority sisters. 31 billing mistakes that nearly triggered an insurance audit. Rachel's smile falters. Those were learning experiences. "Learning experiences that nearly cost me my license," I reply, my tone sharp as glass. Mom's hand twitches toward mine but stops short, hovering in the air. "Everyone makes mistakes when they're young, Emily. These weren't accidents," I say firmly. I slide another document across the table, this one itemizing every free treatment I've provided to the family over the past 3 years. Dad's shoulder rehabilitation, Mom's foot therapy, Rachel's messages before vacations, $42,000 worth of services. While I lived on ramen noodles to pay my student loans, I carried you all. Silence blankets the room, heavy and suffocating. The only sound is the grandfather clock ticking steadily in the corner, marking every second of their stunned expressions. Dad recovers first, straightening in his chair. "We were supporting you in our own way." I meet his eyes, unblinking. Support doesn't drain someone dry, it builds them up. What you've done is exploitation. The air grows colder, sharper. Mom presses her napkin to her lips, as though blotting away words she dares not speak. Rachel looks down at her plate, cheeks flushed, fingers tightening around her wineglass. For years I thought if I worked hard enough, gave enough, they would finally see me. Tonight, I realize they already see me, just as a resource to be mined, never as a daughter to be cherished. I slide the papers back into my portfolio, tucking them into their exact places. My hands no longer shake. The truth is out, and I am not afraid of the silence that follows. Emily zips her briefcase closed. This clinic isn't your piggy bank. It's my life's work, and you can't touch it. On Facebook, her mother beams beside Emily's clinic sign. Proud mama, family business. The photo freezes me in place. Mom's arm is wrapped around my shoulders, her pearls catching the sunlight, her smile wide and radiant. It was taken 3 years ago on the opening day of Healing Hands, the single day she stood beside me as though proud. I had believed her warmth then. I had let myself imagine for just one moment that maybe they finally saw me. But now, staring at the screen, I see the truth. It wasn't pride, it was a pose. The caption makes my stomach twist. So proud of my daughter Emily's vision with Healing Hands therapy. We've always believed in her healing touch, family business. A lie neatly packaged in hashtags. Family business, Carter legacy. Every word robs me, strips away the years of double shifts and ramen meals, and replaces them with their story, their legacy. A knock at my door. Carol steps in, balancing 2 mugs of coffee, steam curling into the air. "Thought you could use reinforcements," she says, setting one in front of me. I slide my phone across the desk, the screen still glowing. She studies it, lips pressed into a thin line. She's painting a picture that doesn't exist. People will believe her if you don't push back. I lean back in my chair, the old leather creaking. My office is small, nothing glamorous. A second-hand desk, bookshelves that tilt slightly to the left. But the walls carry truth. Framed outcome reports, photos of patients who fought their way back from surgeries and injuries, the original business license that nearly cost me my sanity. This room is mine, a record of what I bled for. And that post is stealing it. Only yesterday, Rachel had barged in, perfume wafting like smoke after a fire. She held a folder of marketing ideas, talking fast, smiling as if she owned the place. She hadn't asked permission. She simply showed up, expecting my staff to step aside. Mark at the front desk handled it perfectly, polite but firm, calling me quietly. I didn't leave my patient mid-session. I refused to let her chaos interrupt care. When I came out, she was gone, but the faint trace of her perfume lingered in the waiting area. Now I realize that intrusion was only the beginning. Carol sits across from me, wrapping her hands around her mug. "It's not just online. Dr. Reynolds mentioned your family partnership last week. He said your father contacted him directly, asking about collaboration." My throat tightens. They're rewriting the story everywhere. Bridge club, church luncheons, medical contacts. With every word, they push me further into the shadows of my own work. I stare at the blinking cursor on my laptop. For weeks, I've drafted and deleted a message to them, always hesitating, always afraid of how final it might sound. But Mom's post leaves no space for hesitation. If I don't speak now, their fiction will solidify into fact. I begin to type. Each word feels deliberate, steady, as though I am writing my own Declaration of Independence. As I have already told you, after careful consideration, I'm establishing professional boundaries regarding Healing Hands therapy. The clinic remains closed to family employment or management input. All treatment services will be billed at standard rates. Business discussions are limited to my management team. I remain open to rebuilding our personal relationship, separate from my professional life. I read it once, then again. Nothing extra, nothing cruel, just truth. Clear and precise, like a treatment plan written after a thorough assessment. My finger hovers, trembling slightly before pressing send. The sound is soft, just a click, but it echoes in me, louder than the grandfather clock in their dining room. Carol exhales, almost in relief. "You did the right thing," she says softly. I nod, though my chest still aches. Through the glass wall, I see David helping an elderly patient practice walking again. His laughter fills the hallway, steady and real. Julia hands over a resistance band, her voice calm and encouraging. My team is proof that family isn't just blood, it's loyalty, respect, and shared purpose. My phone buzzes again, another notification. Someone commented under Mom's post. "So proud of family businesses like yours. True legacy." I swallow hard. Lies travel quickly. But I remind myself, the truth, once spoken clearly, is stronger. I take a sip of the coffee Carol brought. It's hot, almost too strong, but it steadies me. For the first time in years, I feel the faint outline of control, not over them, but over myself. Emily presses send. They wanted ownership? Now they'll have boundaries instead. Blood is thicker than water, Emily. Her father's words strike like a verdict as he clasps his hands across the cafe table. The Cornerstone Cafe hums around us, clinking cups, the hiss of the espresso machine, low chatter from strangers who don't know that my family's war is unfolding in the corner booth. Sunlight slants through the tall windows, illuminating dust motes that dance in the air, ordinary and indifferent. My leather portfolio rests in front of me, its weight a steady reminder that I am not walking into this battle unarmed. My mom sits to my left, pearls gleaming, as she reaches across the table, brushing my wrist. "We've always been proud of you, sweetie. Your father tells everyone about our brilliant daughter, the doctor." "Doctor of physical therapy," I correct automatically. Rachel leans in before Mom can say more, pulling a sleek tablet from her bag. "I know I came on too strong last time," she says, voice dripping with practiced humility. "So here's a new plan, a consulting role. 3 days a week. I'll handle social media and bring in corporate clients. Think about the growth you'll see." She slides the tablet toward me, the glossy screen filled with charts and slogans. I sip my coffee slowly, the bitter heat grounding me. I set the cup down, centering it on the saucer. "Before we discuss any proposals, there's something you should know." Dad raises an eyebrow, leaning back slightly, but his tone is still sharp. "We're here to move forward, not waste time." I flip open my portfolio, sliding a small stack of papers onto the table. "The Hendersons congratulated me last week," I say evenly, "on our family partnership. They seemed surprised when I told them you weren't partners in my clinic." Mom's face pales, but she recovers quickly. "It's just an expression of pride. People misunderstand." "Do they?" I slide another page across the table, screenshots of her Facebook posts, the ones claiming ownership. Or did you choose to mislead them? The hiss of the espresso machine punctuates the silence. Dad's jaw tightens. "We never said—" I cut him off, pulling out another page. "This is Dr. Reynolds' email asking why you contacted him about partnership opportunities in my clinic. Do you deny that?" For a moment, no one speaks. Rachel's perfume, heavy and sweet, seems to fill the air, choking me more than the coffee. Finally, she leans forward, eyes flashing. "You've been watching us." "I've been paying attention," I say, my voice is calm, steady. "The same attention to building my practice while you told your friends it was yours." Dad straightened, his voice rising. "We're getting sidetracked. We're here to discuss Rachel's role." Rachel thrusts the tablet closer. "I deserve something, Emily. You get everything. The respect, the fancy title, the business. What about me? I'm stuck in a cubicle while you play hero in your precious clinic." The bitterness in her voice slices deeper than I expect. For the first time, her mask slips completely, envy spilling out like poison. I take a breath, my hand pressing against the portfolio. "Rachel will have no role in my clinic. Neither will either of you." Mom gasps softly, her hand flying to her throat, eyes glistening. "After everything we've done for you?" I didn't let her finish. I pulled out another document, a spreadsheet of unpaid loans. Every dollar I gave when they claimed to be struggling. $16,450. I say quietly. Money I loaned Rachel during my first 2 years of practice, when I could barely pay rent. You never paid me back." Rachel's cheeks flush crimson. "You said those were gifts." "I said we'd figure it out later," I reply. "It's later." Dad leans forward, voice dropping to a low growl. "You can't possibly expect repayment after all you've done what?" My palms flatten against the table, my voice rising now. "After you missed my doctoral hooding ceremony because of Rachel's sorority fundraiser? After you told Dr. Wilson I was just playing at business until I found a husband? After you dismissed my clinic opening as just another job?" The cafe noise seems to fade. All I hear is my own heartbeat, the final threads snapping. Dad's mask slips, frustration darkening his face. "This is absurd. We never thought you'd succeed on your own. We were trying to help secure your future." The confession drops like a stone in water, sending ripples through everything I've lived. They never believed in me, not once. I gather the documents slowly, stacking them with deliberate care. My hands don't shake this time. I close the portfolio with a decisive snap and rise from the table. Emily rises, closing her portfolio. "I'm not playing at anything. I'm done being invisible." "Dr. Carter, your 3 o'clock is ready," Melissa calls from the hallway. Her voice is bright, steady, and it draws me back to the present moment. I set aside the patient chart on my lap and glance out through the glass wall of my office. The treatment floor hums with energy, machines whirring, voices of encouragement, the rhythmic steps of recovery. My clinic, once just a fragile dream balanced on debt and doubt, now thrives like a living organism. I rise and join Melissa, guiding Mrs. Abernathy into the therapy room. She's a petite woman in her 70s, her back curved from decades of factory work, but her eyes shine, determined and mischievous. "There she is," she declares loudly. "The miracle worker herself." I laugh, setting her chart aside. "The miracle was your dedication to the home exercises. You did the hard work." "Nonsense," she says, waving her hand. "My grandson researched every clinic in Denver. He says you're the best." We move through her final exercises, gentle stretches, strengthening movements, while sunlight streams through the blinds, striping the floor with gold. As she grips my hands, steadying herself, I see my reflection in the wall mirror. The tight shoulders that once hunched under the weight of invisibility are gone. I stand taller now, rooted in worth I no longer question. Later that afternoon, I gather 3 new graduates around the conference table. Their eyes are wide, notebooks open, eager for guidance. I perch on the table's edge, remembering when I once sat where they do, hungry, exhausted, uncertain. "The most important thing I can teach you isn't a technique," I tell them. "It's knowing your value. In this profession, you'll give constantly. Make sure what you're giving is respected." They nod, scribbling notes, and I feel a flicker of pride that warms deeper than any award. When the clinic quiets for the evening, I open my laptop. Numbers glow on the screen. Our pro bono program now serves 15% of our patients, far more than I once dared. The thought would have terrified me last year. Now it fills me with purpose. Real healing means extending dignity to those who can't afford it. My phone buzzes. An email from Mom, the 3rd this week. Photos of her volunteering at the community garden. Sun hat tilted, gloves stained with soil. For once, there were no demands, no subtle inquiries about the clinic. Just simple updates, small steps, but genuine. Rachel's name flashes in my inbox too. A job announcement was forwarded with no commentary. She's landed a corporate position unrelated to me, unrelated to the clinic. No exclamation points, no demands. For the first time, she seems to be standing on her own feet. I lean back, exhaling. Some wounds take longer to heal than others. Dad's name remains absent from my messages, but maybe silence is the only truth he has to give. That evening, I drove to Hannah's house for our monthly women's group dinner. Her home buzzes with warmth, filled with laughter and clinking cutlery. Unlike my parents' dining room, which has polished performances, this table is messy, authentic, and alive. We pass dishes family side, green bean casserole, cornbread, roasted chicken. sharing stories between bites. Melissa lifts her glass, her eyes sparkling. To Emily, who taught us all that standing your ground isn't selfish, it's necessary. Applause ripples around the table, and heat rises in my cheeks, not from shame, but from belonging. When the plates are cleared, I step onto Hannah's back porch. The evening air is crisp, carrying the scent of pine. Mountains loom on the horizon, their silhouettes steady against the fading light. Hannah joins me quietly. "You look peaceful," she says. "I am," I answer, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. For so long, I thought healing meant fixing everyone else, even when it broke me. Now, I understand. I can heal my patients without sacrificing myself. Tomorrow, I'll return to the clinic. I'll treat an elderly man recovering from surgery. He will look me in the eye, say thank you, and mean it. That is enough. That is everything. I close my eyes, breathing in the mountain air. My voice is quiet but certain, carried into the dusk. I heal people who value the healing, and I'm finally one of them. Sometimes the hardest battles are not fought in boardrooms or courtrooms, but across the dinner table, where love and loyalty blur into control and expectation. Emily's journey shows us that family can be both our first comfort and our deepest wound. She gave, she sacrificed, she carried more than her share, and yet she was treated as invisible. What hurts most is not the weight of labor or debt, but the quiet dismissal of one's worth. A father who applauds another child, a mother who praises charm over discipline, a sister who takes without gratitude. These cuts are deeper than any physical scar, and yet, hidden inside those wounds is the seed of strength. Emily learned that boundaries are not walls of cruelty but fences of dignity. They say, "This is where I end and you begin." They protect the parts of us that no one else should own. By drawing her line, she didn't abandon her family. She rescued herself from their entitlement. Many of us are taught that sacrifice is the purest form of love. But what happens when sacrifice is demanded, endlessly, with no return, no acknowledgement, no respect? Then it becomes exploitation, dressed in the language of family. True love does not ask you to disappear for someone else's comfort. Her story reminds us that justice does not always look like revenge. Sometimes justice is a quiet step out the door, a refusal to carry what was never ours to bear. Justice is reclaiming our name, our work, our self-worth. Emily did not win by defeating her family. She won by liberating herself from the role they assigned her. She is no longer the invisible daughter, the fallback, the resource. She is the healer, the builder, the one who finally sees herself clearly. Each of us must ask, where do we need to draw the line? What boundaries will protect our spirit, our dignity, our future? Family can be precious, but only when it respects us. When it doesn't, it is no sin to say enough. The lesson is simple, but not easy. You cannot pour endlessly from an empty cup. You cannot heal others while wounding yourself. You cannot let false narratives define the truth you worked so hard to build. In the end, Emily discovers that real family members may not be those who share our blood, but those who share our respect. Her staff, her patients, her friends, they formed the circle of loyalty her parents never offered. Sometimes, chosen family is the truest family, and the greatest act of love we can offer ourselves is the courage to be seen. To stand up and say, "I am here, I matter, I will not be erased." Her journey leaves us with one lingering truth: being visible is not arrogance, it is survival. To be recognized for who you are is not pride, it is justice. Have you ever experienced this? A moment when the people closest to you failed to honor your worth? If you enjoyed the story, leave the number 1 and subscribe to the Family Fallout Stories to hear the next story.